Welcome back. It's been a long time, my Nerdtooine family. I've missed you. I've had a lot of stuff going on. Of course, the holiday season, and I took a break, and let's just say a lot has happened. The very first thing I'm going to talk about is the insurrection at the Capitol, because it ties directly into one of my favorite characters and something that's been a problem with him for many years, the misuse of the Punisher symbol. Excuse me. The biggest problem is so many people see the Punisher symbol and just see this tough guy that just takes the law into his own hands and just kills anyone who gets in his way. Well, I'm going to tell you something. That's not at all who the Punisher is, at all. And the creators and the actual comic itself, there was a panel that the Punisher saw a cop with his logo on his vehicle and told him he had to take it off because he didn't want to be him. The creators have come out publicly because there were many people on the live videos of the insurrection when the terrorists stormed the Capitol, wearing Punisher logos, and people are calling for Marvel to give up on the Punisher and to basically say that they're not they shouldn't be using him anymore because of what he stands for, because these people misunderstand what he stands for, and that in lies the problem. So, like I said, after what happened, the terrible acts in the Capitol, and for the record, they weren't protesters. They were absolutely terrorists, and I don't care what anyone says. I try not to be any type of political in my podcast and in my content, but this isn't political anymore. It's just patriotic, I guess, for me to not want people to storm the Capitol building and take it over with guns and kill police officers and almost kill more. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not okay with that, and neither are the creators of the Punisher or John Bernthal, who played the Punisher on the amazing Netflix show and the Daredevil show. Garth Ennis, one of the creators of the co-creator of the Punisher, basically went on record to say that anyone sporting that brand in that rally was a half-wit. I've said it, this is a direct quote, I've said this before a couple of times, but no one actually wants to be the Punisher. Nobody wants to pull 3 tours of duty in a combat zone with the last one going catastrophically wrong, come home with a head full of broken glass, see their families machine gunned into bloody awful in front of their eyes, and then dedicate the rest of their lives to cold, bleak, heartless slaughter. He continued to say, the people wearing the logo in this context are kidding themselves, just like the police officers who wore it over the summer. What they actually want is to wear an apparently scary symbol on a t-shirt, throw their weight around a bit, then go home to the wife and kids and resume their everyday life. They thought no harder about the Punisher symbol than the half-wits I saw on Wednesday, the ones waving the stars and stripes while invading the Capitol. I'm sorry. That explains it the best. Frank Castle is so much more than just a vigilante who kills bad guys. He's a deeply troubled man who gave everything to his country and then basically had his whole world destroyed when he came back. And it just goes to show how people misunderstand things so much. I actually got into an argument with a police officer on Instagram a few months back about it, and I said, you can wear it, you can be a Punisher fan. I have a Punisher shirt. I mean, I don't wear it to intimidate people. I wear it because I love Frank Castle. I'm a nerd. I'm not gonna go out there and try to be like, yo, I got the Punisher shirt on. I want them to fear me. No, that's wrong. If you're a cop, I'm sorry, you're a public servant. You're not supposed to be feared. You serve and protect. I'm just saying. The other creator, Jerry Conway, previously said that any law enforcement official that uses the logo is an outlaw. And Bernthal said, I'm with you there. Beautiful work. These people are misguided, lost, and afraid. They have nothing to do with what Frank stands for or is about. Big love. Now, and that's goes to my point about how much I love John Bernthal as a person, first of all, but also as the Punisher. He really gets it. Like, he's not just someone pretending to understand the source material. He really gets it. Like, and anyone, and I've said this before, I mean, maybe not on my podcast, but that anyone who wears that logo to instill fear in people, I hope that if you really are doing that, then you've done that. You've gone to you've done 3 tours, and one of them went horribly wrong. The last one with all your friends dying, and then you come home to your wife and kids already a wreck, and then they get murdered right in front of you. If you want to be that scary guy, then that's, if you want to be, think you're tough like Frank Castle, think you want to be Frank Castle, that's Frank Castle. It's not just some guy who thinks he's tough and just uses his power or weaponry, skills, whatever, to his own advantage. He's a tortured man that is doing what he thinks he needs to do after the horrors that he's witnessed. And I think most veterans would probably agree with me when they say that. When I say that, if you weren't there, you can't talk about it. I don't know the effects of war. I've not been to war. And I would assume a lot of the people who raided the Capitol hadn't either. They were just wearing those things to try to seem tough or seem something they're not. And again, I'm not being political here. It's just wrong. And it shouldn't be standard for. And for people to call Marvel to have to cancel like any plans to do Punisher, that's wrong as well. You can't fault someone for misusing your anything. Like, if you put out some content and people take it the wrong way, that's on them, not as much on the person who said it. I always have and always will stand by everything I say, and I'll be glad to debate that with anyone. I'm a very open debater with almost any topic. If you want to debate civilly with me about anything, I have no problem with that. And that's something that's lost on a lot of people these days. But that's just my bit on that. I felt like I needed to say that. I didn't feel like I could do a show without commenting on that. I mean, I want people to know where I stand on things like that, because that's just not something that's approved by anyone who actually cares about justice and whoever and cares about the characters that they claim to want to emulate. You don't want to emulate Frank Castle. You just don't. But that's my sad, angry take on that. So we're going to get into some news now. I've got a lot to cover. So first and foremost, Zack Snyder director's cut of Justice League will feature an appearance by John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, and that is confirmed by Zack Snyder himself, as well as the actor Harry Lennox, who played the General in Man of Steel. Quote, he told Collider, "It's going to be great to be up there with Batman and Superman and my pals. Yeah, I'm once again like a kid at a candy store." And then Snyder commented as well, saying Henry Lennox is pretending to be a human being, but does a great job, but has this relationship with Lois that started in Man of Steel. If you kind of track their relationship, Harry understands their relationship between Lois and Clark, who he knows, of course, is Superman. So obviously, he knows that Clark is Superman, and he understands the relationship that's going on with him and Lois. That's actually really interesting little tidbit, that he still remained pretending to be a human. And I've actually saw some like rough draft drawings that Snyder released, where he was in human form and then just turned into the Martian. I really hope we get to see that, and I'm sure we will. And I also saw that the Snyder Cut is not going to be released in episodic form like they said initially, that it's going to be a one-shot full movie, which I think would the runtime is about 4 hours. So I don't know about you, but I'm 100% okay with that. Anthony Mackie, the guy who plays Falcon in every time you've seen him in the MCU, had some comments about who is Captain America. He's being very ambiguous and said, no, we don't know that yet. The idea of the show is basically, and at the end of Avengers Endgame, Cap decided he was going into retirement. And he asked me if I would take up the shield. But at no point in time did I agree to or say that I would be Captain America. So the show walks the line of who is going to take up the shield and who is going to be Captain America if Steve isn't coming back. He also said that, well, it's funny, they actually wanted to cast an old dude to play Chris Evans, so they brought in like 3 actors. Like, none of these, like, this isn't how Chris would look when he's old. Like, he's like George Clooney. He's going to be 95 and still look handsome, so they brought in a makeup team and prosthetic makeup and made them into an old man. And how good of an actor Chris is to actually work, like, he pulled it off with his voice and everything. He did a great job. Now, I'm sure Mackie's delivery was a lot more eloquent than mine, but I just wanted to make sure that I got the exact quote. That's interesting, too, because, I mean, it's obviously assumed that he is going to be Captain America as the way Endgame ended, but we also know that U.S. Agent is going to be in the show, and the U.S. government is kind of dubbing him the Captain America of their approved agency. So that's also something that's going to be interesting to look at and how that dynamic plays out, because if that's true, then maybe Bucky becomes Captain America by the end. You notice how the title is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and nothing to do with Captain America. So it's very possible that Bucky becomes Cap by the end of the show, from what Mackie's telling us, and that's kind of interesting. I mean, I really want him to take over as Cap because I feel like Mackie deserves it. He's a fantastic actor, and he's done nothing but turn in gem after gem after gem of performance. So, but I mean, also you can say the same for Sebastian Stan as Bucky. But either way, I think I'll be happy. But I definitely see it going to be Mackie in the end, who actually becomes Captain America. All right, so moving on. So for all those Lord of the Rings fans, there is a Lord of the Rings live-action TV show that Amazon is doing. They're starting to shoot. I believe they've actually been shooting for a while now. Now, according to the OneRing.net, the epic drama is set thousands of years before the events of J.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and will take viewers back to an era in which great powers were forged, kingdoms rose to glory and fell to ruin. Unlikely heroes were tested, hope hung by the finest of threads, and the greatest villain that ever flowed from Tolkien's pen threatened to cover all the world in darkness. Beginning in a time of relative peace, the series follows an ensemble cast of characters both familiar and new as they confronted the long-feared reemergence of evil to Middle-earth. From the darkest depths of the Misty Mountains to the majestic forests of the elf capital of Lindon to the breathtaking island kingdom of Numenor. To the furthest reaches of the map, these kingdoms and characters will carve out legacies that live on long after they're gone. So that's cool. That it's going to be set. It's like a prequel. It's kind of like what the Disney is doing with the High Republic, which, I mean, so far I'm loving the High Republic. I've barely started the book. I pre-ordered it, and I was just so scared to read it because I feel like no matter what, right now is the best it could be because I have all these like awesome like expectations about how good it could be. So once it gets moving, I might not be as happy, but I'll eventually finish it, and I'll talk about that for sure once I do finish it. So the only people that I could really show up would be some of the old people like Elrond, um, or Galadriel. They could possibly show up, but any of the mortal characters, there's no way we'll see any of them in there. Um, at all, in my opinion. There's just no way. Unless there's someone who sees the future, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. Um, okay, now, again, unfortunately, Morbius has been delayed yet again. Um, Sony Pictures announced that it's going to be moving to October 8th, which is going to be right in between Dune and the new Halloween Kills movie. Dune's coming out October 1st, and Halloween comes out October 15th, so it's going to sandwich it right in between there. This is now the third time that Morbius has been delayed. It was initially supposed to come out last year, and then COVID had other plans. So that's another delay for Morbius, and some people are not too sure what to expect of it. I honestly think the trailers looked really good. I was really impressed with it so far, in my opinion at least. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to come back with a ton of Star Wars news. Welcome back. We're here with some Star Wars news. Breaking news, Liam Neeson, after many years of saying he would not like to come back to Star Wars, and here's a quote from an interview last year with Neeson. I'll be honest with you, no, it's not. I'm really not a huge fan of the genre. I think it's Hollywood with all the bells and whistles and technical achievements and stuff, which I admire, but I have no desire to go into the gym for 3 hours every day to pump myself up to squeeze into a Velcro suit with a cape. I admire the actors, and I know some of the actors who do it, and do it fantastically. It's just not my genre. It really isn't. The first Star Wars, I was in that was 22 years ago, and I enjoyed that because it was novel, and that was new, and I was acting to tennis balls, which was where ultimately going to be little fuzzy, furry creatures and the stuff. That was interesting, acting-wise, to try and make them seem real, but that was the last. It was quite exhausting. And now, when he was asked about potentially being in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, he said, I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard that at all when they were talking about rumors of him being in the show. And he said, sure, I'd be up for that. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but that got me hype. I would definitely love to see Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn show up as a Force ghost and basically train Obi-Wan Kenobi from the nether regions of the Force. He could tell him what actually happened with Anakin and the Sand People when he slaughtered all the Tusken Raiders. He could teach him how to become a Force ghost, which would be something that was actually kind of hinted at the end of Revenge of the Sith. He said that Yoda said that he was going to have him contact Qui-Gon, and in the now non-canon Legends Obi-Wan Kenobi book, when he was on Tatooine, that's basically what he was doing. So we're yet to see what Deborah Chow and the rest of the team for, which is including Hayden Christensen. Oh my God, that's gonna be I'm so excited for the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. I mean, a show. I'm a huge Kenobi fan, like truly, like even Guinness's portrayal in the originals stands out as just something that's amazing to me, and all the Clone Wars. I mean, Kenobi is just one of my favorite all-time characters. When I used to do live, I had a Facebook page a couple years ago where I would do live talks about Star Wars. I went by the Gray Jedi Kyle Kenobi. I have a custom Kenobi lightsaber with a green hilt, with a green saber that the Dungeon Master got for Christmas for me for a couple years ago. So yeah, I'm a huge Kenobi fan. So to finally have confirmations, knowing that it's actually going to happen, it's just Ewan McGregor is one of the greatest actors of our time, and I absolutely adore him. I'm a huge fan of all cinema, so his Moulin Rouge is one of my all-time favorites, and he just killed that role. Among everything else, including Black Mass, I mean, he's been a good guy. He's been a struggling writer. He's been the bad guy. I mean, he can do it all. Um, so moving on, we have some Ahsoka rumors. The new rumor from Kessel Run Transmissions is claiming that the Ahsoka show is basically going to be a continuation of the Star Wars Rebels season finale, where she's on a mission with Sabine Wren to find Ezra Bridger and the conflict with Admiral Thrawn. Some people are upset by that. They feel like the Rebels deserves its own thing, and Ahsoka should have her own thing as well. Honestly, just because it's introduced through the Ahsoka show doesn't mean that those characters themselves might not also get their own shows. Filoni has stated many times that Rebels is done. He also stated that the characters could be explored more in a different setting, but the Rebels itself is done. So for that to be something that people are upset about, well, that Ahsoka is introducing all these characters and it's basically going to be a continuation of that. That's basically what Filoni said all along, that the Rebels itself was done, but the characters could live on in other shows, which is what we're seeing more than likely going to happen with the Ahsoka show. And now recently, Bill Burr, who was in The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 as Mayfield, has been getting a lot of flack recently for his Boston accent in the show. And now, first of all, before I get into that, I just want to say how amazing Bill Burr has been in the show. Like, when I first heard that he was going to be in it, I always had a feeling it was going to be good because I trust Favreau. I mean, when Robert Downey Jr. was cast for Iron Man, everyone was like, what? He can't play Iron Man, and how wrong were they? So I trust Favreau more than almost any producer, director, writer that I can think of right now. I mean, to me, the only movie that I have any issue with that he's done was Iron Man 3. Now, actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, he didn't direct Iron Man 3. I'll have to check that. I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments if I get comments. But yeah, his amazing acting chops in that the Believer episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian was he's a really talented actor. He's not just a comedian that was just thrown into Star Wars because, I mean, he made me care about that character. And he was hilarious without trying too hard. Like, I've stated that there are certain... That's one thing I don't like about some of the Star Wars when they try to be funny. You can be funny without really forcing it. And Bill Burr himself, he doesn't force anything. He's just funny being himself. So what he said was, what about English? Isn't that a little weird? When he was asked about on The Tonight Show, if you went to a galaxy far, far away and you get off and somebody's like, hey, how's it going? And you totally understand him. Or how about C-3PO with an English accent? That was okay? The guy's been knighted. He just played a Royal Albert Hall. Now he's hanging out with Luke Skywalker. I mean, what about the fact that Han Solo talking to Bigfoot? He's speaking Bigfoot. Han Solo is speaking English. They never break, but one keeps going. And Solo's like, I said, hit the button, Chewie. And none of that. That's all fine. And you know, honestly, I loved his accent. I thought it added something to the scenes. Like, it made him different. It had him stand out. I mean, in a galaxy that has all these different planets, everyone has to sound the same. I mean, you're telling me that there's no place that could potentially have an accent like that? That's just a little ridiculous. And I mean, if nothing else, it gives you great, like, meme material. I mean, like, in a universe wicked far away. I mean, come on. How is that not freaking amazing? But one thing I will admit, he did admit that he's not watched Star Wars. He admitted on the Bill Burt podcast, he says, I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that. It's my list of shit to watch. I was going to try. I know. I'm embarrassed now. I'm going to watch it. I watched most of the first season. It's just now I came during the holidays. So he's a little behind on the show that he is in and killing it in. So that's a little ironic to me. But you know what? He doesn't have to watch it. He's so good on it that he just knows it's good and doesn't have to actually watch all of it. But all right, so we're gonna move on to a little bit of comic book news. And now some comic book heads, when they hear this, are definitely gonna run and hide because they remember the last time they heard this, it didn't go so well. But apparently, Miles Morales is getting his own Clone Saga in April. Now, people fans of the 90s know how Clone Sagas can go when it goes with Spider-Man. It's one of the most, let's just say, easily argued upon thing in Spider-Man, I think, would be how much you hate or don't care, basically, about the Clone Saga. Like, a lot of the stuff in it, in my opinion, was not very well done. But they posted, Marvel Comics posted a graphic that said Miles Morales Spider-Man Clone Saga. Marvel offered up a few additional details. Miles Morales Spider-Man number 25 kicks off the Clone Saga in April 2021. Things get wild for Miles. Saladin Ahmed teased that all I can say right now is that this is a thing that has been in the work for some time, and I can't wait to share more details soon. So again, I'm apprehensive because I remember what happened last time we had a Spider-Man Clone Saga, and I'm admittedly a little worried. But we'll see what happens. Now, this is not the first time Miles has come into a clone of himself. So that's going to be interesting. But like I was saying, so the Clone Saga happened between 1994 and 1996. For those of you who don't know, like I said, it's one of the most controversial Spider-Man stories ever. It ran across all the Spider-Man titles. It even brought back a thought-to-be-dead clone from the 1970s. Yeah, it's a little crazy. Ben Reilly replaced Peter. Peter thought that Ben Reilly was the real Peter because that's what Jackal told him, and he believed him. Yeah, so it got real weird real quick. And now Miles looks like he's going to be going through the same thing. But like I said, so Miles encountered a clone of himself in Miles Morales Spider-Man number 18. So in that comic, the clone looked like he died. Maybe he comes back. It could be very interesting. I will admit that I am not up on any of the current runs of either DC or Marvel. I'm reading back catalog issues. Let's see, I just finished reading the majority of Constantine, the New 52. I've also been reading the Secret Wars 2015. And my thoughts on Secret Wars is that it's not necessarily a good story, but it's a fun one. Like, I enjoy reading like the crazy stuff that they've come up with in that storyline. But it's not the best, but that's what I'm reading now. And I mean, I have a lot of the new runs of both DC and Marvel. I mean, I've actually have the comics. I don't really read my comics. I buy them and I put them in a storage container and keep them safe. Like, I don't ever open my comics. I usually wait for them to show up on the digital, on like the Marvel or the DC apps, because I'm a collector more than anything with the comic itself. Like, the material, I definitely read it, and like I've read all the Civil War, the first Civil War run multiple times, but I don't have every issue. I do have a lot of them, though. I'm getting closer to having all of them, thank God. But it's so I don't really know what's going on now with those newer runs. But I still wanted to give anyone who's listening who is up on them a heads up on what I find. And so I also heard through so what I do, I went on comicbook.com and I got all of their important news, and I try to digest them and give you the best tidbits of what I find on there. So another thing that I found was that there's going to be a new X-Men series that's going to focus on basically Nightcrawler as the main character. Jonathan Hickman and Cy Spurrier are going to be working together to give us the Way of X. It'll be focused, like I said, on a fan favorite Nightcrawler. They've done a lot of stuff that's been really amazing, like X-Men Legacy and X-Force, House of X, Powers of X, Reign of X, which will play into Way of X. Like I said, there's a lot of there's a lot of X's around here, kind of like my past. So Spurrier said, we will explore some of the most pressing questions that have been raised in this thought-provoking new era. The artist Bob Quinn mentioned that Nightcrawler will assemble to confront the dark mysteries of the X-Men's new way of life in the Way of X. The series will launch in April. Spurrier said, I should probably just tell a lie for the sake of neat elevator pitch and say that Way of X is a story about the creation of a new mutant religion. But it's not. Not really. That's kind of where it starts for sure. Nightcrawler realizes something's wrong with the hearts and minds of mutant kind and sets out to fix it. But as he quickly discovers, this isn't a job for priests and prayers. The question is, what do they have to become in order to fight it? Preachers? Cops? Executioners? Or something else? Something entirely new? Now that sounds ridiculously interesting. Marvel describes the series as mutant kind has built a new Eden, but there are serpents in the garden. Some mutants struggle to fit in, some mutants turn to violence and death, and the children whisper of the patchwork men singing in their hearts. Only one mutant senses the looming shadows, snared by questions of death, law, and love. Only Nightcrawler can fight for the soul of Krakoa. Only he and the curious crew he assembles, including fan favorites Dr. Nemesis, Pixie, and Blink, can help mutants defeat their inner darkness and find a new way to live. So, I'm not up on the entire Reign of X runs like that, but I'm definitely going to be tuning into this one. Even if I have to just get the summaries of how it got to that point, just for it to make sense. But I'm definitely, Nightcrawler is one of the best mutants that exists. He's got such a rich backstory, and he is one of my favorites. He's up there with Wolverine as the best X-Men, in my opinion. Spurrier said that Way of X is a smart psychedelic tale about faith, science, culture, love, and law, and bamfing. Bamfing just for the joy of it. And for anyone who's a fan of Nightcrawler and know his rich backstory of religious backstory and the fact that he's so awesome is going to be excited for this title. And I definitely am really excited to read that. That's definitely going to be something that I like I said, I pick up no matter what to read and stay with, because there are certain titles that you can read out of context and it still be just absolutely delightful. And that's like for instance, the New 52 Constantine. I don't know how it got there, and I don't know what's going to happen when it gets to the end. And everything that I'm reading is basically null and void because of everything that's happened since. But it's still a self-contained, amazing story that I just love, and I have a feeling this Nightcrawler series, Way of X, is going to be very similar. So that's going to be it for the comic book news. I'm going to take another quick break, and when I come back, we're going to talk WandaVision. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. So, obviously, there will be some spoilers if you haven't seen the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. I will give you a spoiler warning before I actually say them. I'm just going to first talk about how much I absolutely adore the show. It's definitely not like anything we've seen up to this point in Marvel and the MCU. Which obviously makes sense because it's the first live action series that has been released. It initially wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be the second one. They were going to release Falcon and the Winter Soldier first. But they were able to get WandaVision done. And apparently the reason why they wanted this out is because they could release this without having to release Black Widow, because apparently Black Widow has a tie-in somehow with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So that'll be interesting to see. But this is like, besides Doctor Strange and a few times that he's been in the other, like the Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, we haven't really seen too much magic. Even the magic that the Asgardians have, a lot of it's technology based. Like, of course, like Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, is obviously magic, but there's the majority of their advancements are technological. So it definitely would make sense for it to be like nothing we've ever seen. Like, that's what Doctor Strange was. I mean, when that came out, there was no magic. Like, even though they talked about Thor's hammer being magic, that was it. Like, and people just can easily just get behind that. That's Thor's magical hammer because, that's like mythology, so they didn't really have to explain that too much for us just to go, okay, cool. But this is something completely different. WandaVision has a lot of inspirations from the comics. I'm not going to do a full breakdown. I'm just going to talk about some of the things I noticed that I liked, and I'm going to give some theories as to what we can expect moving forward. So, in an interview with comicbook.com, Matt Shackman, the director of WandaVision, had a sit down, and basically that he was mentioned that it has a lot of Steve Englehart's The Vision and Scarlet Witch run from 1985, a lot of House of M and Tom King's The Vision book kind of seeming as inspiration. And Shackman said, all of them, and ones you didn't mention. I think the thing that's so great about the MCU is they are building on everything that comes before and making something wholly new and original. And much like each one of those comics that you held up there, those artists and writers took what had come before and fashioned something new, and that's what we're trying to do. Now, I will, this is right here, listen, hey, pay attention. If you have not seen the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, you need to leave right now. Sorry, sayonara, we will see you soon, and come back and watch this part when you get a chance to see him. Or if you're watching this specific clip on YouTube, why did you click on it if you haven't seen it? Because this is only going to be WandaVision stuff. That's kind of stupid. But as of right now, you have been warned, so moving forward. In the first couple of episodes, WandaVision, we saw Wanda and Vision have to do a talent show, and they came out as Glamour and Illusion. That's actually a reference directly to the 1985 comics, where they had to pretend to be normal people, and that's what they went as. That was their names. Shackman said it was an absolute joy to film. It took days and days. I think Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen are brilliant, and I think Paul does a brilliant job channeling his inner Dudley Moore brilliantly. It was one of the most complicated sections to film, especially because these shows, when we were in the 50s and 60s, were referencing Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. We wanted to use technology that was appropriate to the time whenever possible, so wires and things on rods and old-fashioned ways as much as possible, because that's just a charm to there's just a charm to it. And I think it's part of our goal of being authentic to these reference points that we have. But I think it also just adds just to its own kind of magic, especially in contrast to the full MCU stuff that's also in the show. And, it definitely had that, like when Wanda and Vision were talking on the couch about, can't you just make us rings? The transition to them having rings was so Bewitched, and it was so beautiful. I loved everything about the show, except the fact that I can't figure it out. Upon first viewing, I definitely thought that I had figured it out. I had this grand scheme that I concocted in my head of how everything ties into everything, and I looked like, the meme from Always Sunny where he's standing in front of that billboard, and he's like, I had like all these threads, like I figured it out. Then I watched a couple more times, and I'm like, shit, I don't think I figured it out at all. I will tell you what my theories are, even though they may be plot hole filled by the time I finish them, but it's a really good show. So moving on, now WandaVision is it's definitely the start of what I'm going to call, and I'm sure someone will rename or they'll give an official name, the multiverse trilogy. It's really more I don't even know what a fourth one would be, quadrilogy or whatever. But WandaVision kicks it off. Spider-Man 3, or Homecoming 3, as Kevin Feige has titled the working title right now, or stand-in title, because he worked on Spider-Man 3 with Doctor Strange director Sam Raimi. See, and this is why everything is coming together so nicely right now, because of how they're doing it. And this is the main difference between, in my opinion, between the DC movies and the Marvel movies. Now, DC has a very good chance to just, fix it all with Flashpoint, but like some of the things that happened in Wonder Woman wouldn't make sense for what happened in Justice League and Batman vs. Superman. It just wouldn't. She didn't fly. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. I guess it's just a spoiler the whole time, but Wonder Woman flies in Wonder Woman 84. But that's not like what happened in the later movies. The directors of Spider-Man 3, Watts and Multiverse of Madness, Raimi and Shackman, are all working together to make the pieces fit beautifully. So Shackman said there's a conversation among filmmakers, which I think is great. We're all a part of this interconnected universe. I admire the heck out of everyone who's worked in Marvel before and are working in Marvel things right now. It's not just the movies, it's also the Disney Plus shows that we're interacting with. I think it's important for every successful movie or TV show to feel, when you get to the end, that the ending is incredibly surprising but also inevitable. If you don't do that, I don't think that you've told your story well, and I think that's exactly what we're trying to do. That when you get to the end, you're like, wow. But then you go, ah. He said it's an amazing place, but definitely we've all had conversations about the work that we're doing, because it's a relay race. This whole thing, so you pass the baton from one group of filmmakers to another, and you want to make sure that that handoff is effortless and perfect and right. It's the difference, because DC, their content, while it's all connected and not connected and connected again, they don't seem to be a cohesive story. And like I said, Flashpoint, I feel, is going to fix that. So however that goes down, we'll see. But Flashpoint's a problem because they're writing out Cyborg, which is a big problem. If you guys don't know, that Ray Fisher has been mistreated. by people like Joss Whedon and the executives of Warner Brothers. And I definitely stand with Ray when it comes to social injustice and being treated like a piece of shit when you shouldn't be. Um, so yeah, Flash is a problem, but we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But again, yeah, hashtag I stand with Ray Fisher for sure. Um, but and then this is why the Marvel Universe works so well, is that they do these connected movies that are working together. Like, and you gotta think about it. Like, for instance, like Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame, that was built off of the Russo brothers' Captain America: Civil War. So, and then each movie after that told more story to get to where it was, and then we get something like now WandaVision, and I think Loki series is also going to be involved a little bit because of the time travel aspect of what he's doing. So I feel like there's no way that that doesn't overlap as well. But we're gonna go with the trilogy of Spider-Man 3, WandaVision, and Multiverse of Madness, which I'm super excited for. I think that's gonna be so weird and so amazing. Like, WandaVision's warming us all up for something truly wicked. Raimi is just an unbelievable filmmaker. I mean, Evil Dead, Ash vs. Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, the Spider-Man trilogy. And like, I'm not a big fan of like the Tobey Maguire. Everyone's like, oh, he's the best Spider-Man. I think it's Tom Holland, but those, at least the first two of the Sam Raimi movies, were so good because of his ability to tell a story, but also the villains. William Dafoe as Green Goblin and Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. Perfect casting, and apparently, if all the rumors are true, they're going to be in Spider-Man 3. And you see why all the directors would be working together. Like, if Spider-Man 3 is being directed by Watts, but he can just pick up a phone and be like, hey, so I've got Doc Ock and Green Goblin in the scene. How would they act? They can work together and get a more cohesive story, and it's going to be like its own little saga, I think, and it's going to be wicked. Mark my words now, we're going to be looking back and thinking that Multiverse of Madness is probably better than Endgame. I mean, it doesn't make it the best movie because Endgame's not the best one, but I digress. Elizabeth Olsen said, there's never much we can talk about in Marvel, but I do think WandaVision is a natural progression into what happens in Doctor Strange 2. And she told us to Good Morning America. I think Kevin Feige is doing a really amazing job intertwining the television format with the films so that we can tell a more interesting story moving forward. And it's true. Like, think about it. If WandaVision was a movie, it'd be in a 2.5-hour movie maybe. But we're getting like 6 hours worth of television episodes. So they can tell a more and like, think about the model that they're doing. Like, they're telling the backstory in its own self-contained story that connects to the movies and even is a jumping off point for the movies. This is one of the most ambitious things that anyone's ever attempted in in film history, in my opinion. And it looks like it's going to pay off, but we still have to wait and see, because we honestly don't know how it's all going to play out. Right now, it's looking good. Kevin Feige said in the Phase Zero podcast, the biggest clue is the title of a second Doctor Strange movie. The biggest clue of where the Multiverse of Madness is taking us and how we're going to be exploring that. It's surreal to me that we're talking about Spider-Man 3. I worked on a movie called Spider-Man 3 many years ago, directed by Mr. Sam Raimi. So this clearly the shorthand of calling it Spider-Man 3 now, it's fine. We call it Homecoming 3. So that's what we got right now as the little tidbits of how much they're using the comics as inspiration and how true they're trying to stay. I mean, some of the stuff that we are seeing is just so beautiful to the comics parallels that it's just the start, and I'm already excited about where this is going. But I want to just point out a few little details that I noticed, and then I'll get into my theories. You did notice that when they were eating with Deborah Jo Rupp, and I can't remember the other actor's name, with his boss, the Hearts, he started, being really aggressive towards Wanda, and they immediately started choking. Now, Wanda was sitting there, so was Vision, and Deborah Jo Rupp just kept saying, "Stop it, stop it, stop it." And then she actually looked at Wanda directly and was saying, "Stop it," while laughing, "Stop it, stop it." And then she tells Vision to fix it, to save him, and he does. And then right after that, they leave. So, in that self-contained scene, in my opinion, what we're seeing is not what's actually happening. The most likely thing is that she is in a type of trance and created a little pocket universe where people are trying to extract something from her or Vision. I feel like everyone is in on it except for maybe Monica Rambeau. I think maybe she might be the only one that's not truly in on the whole thing. Because just everything that happens in the show, even though it is an homage to the classic shows that they're referencing, it is a little different when they blatantly just look past things. And a lot of the characters that were interacting with Vision, specifically Vision, were like, the second he got close to anything, they just kind of changed the subject or did something crazy or just went along with it. Like when he did that card trick, his hands is going so fast, the guy just kind of like, oh, no. Oh, look, that last card. Yep, that's it. He was moving so dang fast. How are you not questioning that? And they I think they've already kind of hinted and foretold about Wiccan and Speed, which, if you don't know, are the twins, Wanda's twins with Vision, that were actually created by Mephisto in the comics, which I'll get to him in a second. He was moving at super speed, and she commented on that. And then my wife with the flying saucers, like, Wiccan is like a magical type person, and Speed is obviously like her brother, fast. I don't remember Vision ever being that fast before now. I mean, I could be wrong, but at least not in MCU to my knowledge. I mean, he moved fast as hell when like in the trailer when she knocked over the vase because she was pregnant. I definitely think that's foreshadowing what's going to happen with the twins. And then, okay, so one thing, Agnes is definitely Agatha Harkness. Agatha Harkness is a person who is in the comics. She was generally known as the first witch of the Salem witch trials. And she was in comics with Vision, Wanda, and the twins, and Mephisto, and all the stuff that's going on. So she's definitely someone to look out for. She's going to be an interesting character moving forward. And every time that she seems to get close to something, like an idea or an understanding, shit hits the fan. Like with the tree branches and the helicopter she finds, which is ironic that was the first thing of color she sees. I can't really understand right this point why that was such a reference. And then like later with the blood when the lady broke her hand, broke the glass. Why red? Excuse me. Why red was the color that she saw first? something about that. Um, and I go back to the dinner real quick. The Vision's boss said, "Look, all around you is just chaos." Now Wanda's magic is chaos magic, so that's a nice little reference there. Um, and I think it's ironic. All right, so you're telling me that this sophisticated robot that was built by Tony Stark and also influenced by Ultron, one of the most sophisticated AIs ever in the history of anything, and a single stick of gum can literally make his whole thing, his whole body malfunction. There's a reason for that. There's something like, and it was obviously one of the committee gave that to him, to try to mess with him. And there's a lot of theories going around as to what's going on. Some people think that maybe this is all in Vision's head. Wanda's trying to bring him back, and this is what he's seeing inside his own head. I personally think it's one of two things. There may be some type of like illusion tech, like what Mysterio used, going on here, because I feel like there's like everyone in the community is definitely out to get something from Wanda and Vision. They definitely know that they're Wanda, Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, and Vision. Like they call him Vision. Like everyone knows Vision was an Avenger. Like something's this whole reality is a farce in my opinion. And I think what's going to happen is moving forward, we're going to get like a reverse House of M, because in House of M, she had a mental breakdown and created a reality, where everything was how she wanted it. Now, what I think is actually happening here is she's being manipulated by somebody. I think it's Mephisto, or by extension, Mr. Sinister. I'll get more into that in a second. But she will then realize everything is fake and that Vision is still dead. Her kids never existed, and she's going to snap. And she's going to literally, like, basically almost destroy the multiverse right then and there, and she's going to be what spawns the X-Men and the mutants. It'll be, instead of being no more mutants, she might say something like, let there be mutants, or something along those lines, that will fracture reality and the multiverse itself. So I definitely think that the main villain here is definitely Mephisto, or I mean, he might even be like the Godfather, top of the food chain, you know. And then the next person that we're really dealing with right now is Mr. Sinister. I feel like they can adapt Mr. Sinister to be someone now instead of like a true Nathaniel Essex, you know, old school immortal type person. And you know, you can't say they can't do it. Like people will go get an uproar because I said that. Oh, you can't change his backstory. Bucky was a child in the comics. He was not his friend from all these years. No, that's not how it played out. So if you guys are okay with Bucky, you need to shut up about this. And I'm gonna definitely be firm on that. But the whole idea that it could be Mephisto, Mr. Sinister doing this with Mephisto, because in the comics, Mr. Sinister got his powers by making a deal with Apocalypse. Now, we haven't had Apocalypse yet, but we can definitely have Mephisto, who is the person who actually grants the powers to the Ghost Rider, which I feel like will be seen in Multiverse of Madness. I don't think it's confirmed yet, but that'd be awesome. The rumor is Keanu Reeves could play him. I'd rather Keanu Reeves be Doctor Doom, but I digress. With Mephisto, and he could definitely grant pretty much the same exact powers and stuff that Apocalypse gave to Essex to make him Mr. Sinister. And Mr. Sinister, if you don't know, is one of the biggest and baddest bad guys in the X-Men Rogues Gallery. He's up there with Magneto and Apocalypse. He's that badass. And I think he could be maybe like a remnants of Hydra still in Shield / Sword, because initially I thought this was an ironclad. This had to be happening when I saw that white hand, even though it was just like a regular white hand and not like the super white that Mr. Sinister is. I initially thought, oh yeah, it's definitely Sinister. He's watching this. He's trying to get something out of Wanda so that Mephisto will give him powers, and then all the X-Men will come in, and then that's how he becomes Mr. Sinister, and blah blah blah. But then when I watched it again, I saw a sword logo on the screen next to the picture. So I don't even know anymore if that's gonna be what if that's who it is. But I'm definitely thinking that Wanda's being manipulated and she's in this pocket reality, and she's going to break. Like, they're definitely going to introduce Wiccan and Speed, and I don't think they'll survive the show. I think they'll be either fake, like I said earlier, or they die as children, like in some crazy mishap. But I would say that, in my opinion, that's gonna happen because then that's something they can bring later. In Multiverse of Madness, like Wanda's going crazy and about to destroy the multiverse, and then Doctor Strange pulls in, or America Chavez maybe pulls in the Wiccan and Speed of another reality, another universe, who actually were real, and calm their mom down, and stop her from destroying the multiverse. I definitely feel like that'd be something that'd be so cool and emotional. Yeah, that's definitely my hope and prediction right now, is that is how it happens. And then they end up staying because they lost their mom or something like that in their reality, and they end up joining Kate Bishop and Cassie Lang in the Young Avengers. That, to me, it's writing itself, in my opinion, and I hope that's what we get. But there's no way for us to tell yet. These first two episodes, while amazing, they didn't really give us too much to go on. We were kind of still just waiting for the next installment so that we can actually, figure out where this is going. But we do know from the quotes that I said earlier that it's definitely a progression into Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man 3, or Homecoming 3, if you want to call it that now. And, it's really funny because you look back to all the people who were saying, oh, after Endgame, Marvel's dead. They are just getting started. And WandaVision has been so good so far. And I'm really happy about that. So far, I'm definitely, if you don't have Disney Plus, or you have Disney Plus and aren't watching it, I don't know what you're waiting for, because it's really, really good. First two episodes are now available, streaming only on Disney Plus, and I'm not being paid to say that. I just love the content, so I'm going to promote it because I feel like it. Very much like John Oliver, when he promotes his ladders, he doesn't get paid. He just supports the product. And now, before we get into some community content, I want to talk about rumors and confirmed reports nowadays. People are using the term confirmed and fact and everything like that as what's actually true. Trusted Hollywood insiders and people like at the comicbook.com and everything, they definitely have sources, and they're usually right. But I just can't myself report any news that I don't know is accurate and confirmed by Marvel. Like, comicbook.com says that they have reports and confirmed that Charlie Cox was seen on set Spider-Man 3 and has shot his scenes, and he will be appearing in Spider-Man 3. Marvel hasn't confirmed that, so I can't believe it. I hope that it's 100% true. I can't confirm that. I want to, but I won't report it as confirmed. I would say rumored to be confirmed, but too many social media and websites and stuff, they try to get clickbait and just say what they think will be the highest clickable content they could do, and they just say random things, and I'm not like that. And like I said, I truly hope that everything comicbook.com reports is accurate, because I use them as a source. But I don't report what they confirm by themselves, like when it comes to the MCU. because it's been really weird because initially reports broke that Tatiana Maslany and oh man, I can't think of his name. The guy who's going to be playing Kang the Conqueror, who was in uh, the HBO Max series. Lovecraft Country. Wow, Majors. I can't think of his name. I apologize. Initially, both were reported as playing their characters, She-Hulk and Kang the Conqueror, respectively, and then they both came out and said that's not true. And then later, only months later or weeks later, depending on which one, they were reported to be confirmed. So recent reports say that both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are close to reaching agreements to come back to be in the Marvel Universe. And as of right now, at least, Chris Evans has come out and said that's news to him. But again, it could be just like the other castings and that leaked out that they just don't want to confirm it. And honestly, he technically didn't lie. I mean, if they could come to an agreement and everything like that, but if they technically haven't signed the papers or anything like that, just so they can say, like, I don't know, that's not true. I don't have an agreement with them. Just, have some intrigue or mystery. I mean, that'd be great. Like, could you imagine, like, if they were able to keep it under wraps and Captain America shows up in Winter Soldier? I mean, in Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Or they keep it under wraps when they finally get the Ironheart series out and no one was like, how are they going to do this without Robert Downey Jr. as an AI? And then he shows up as the AI, but somehow they kept it under wraps. Like, honestly, that would be amazing. Like, I hope one day to maybe be able to make some movies and things like that and TV shows. And, I think of how can in this day and age you really wow and shock people anymore? Because, you turn in the cast list and that's all over the internet and, people can just look up things, real quick. Like, think about it if Captain America 2 Winter Soldier came out and most people who, weren't true comic book fans, like, couldn't just look up who the Winter Soldier was. They would not see that shit coming. But now, because they can just go, Google. Oh, look, it was Bucky, and kind of ruined the whole surprise. But like, kudos. And I'm gonna hop back Star Wars real quick on the people who did the Mandalorian and kept keeping that Luke Skywalker scene silent, because I honestly didn't expect it. Well, that's not true. I called it. I said it had to be Luke, and then he didn't show up, and I still wasn't ready for it. It was so good. But yeah, WandaVision got a little off topic there. WandaVision is great, and I hope everyone's enjoying it as much as I am. But yeah, so if it's confirmed by Marvel or Sony or whatever, people putting it out, I'll report it. If not, I'll say it's a rumor till then, even though I get yelled at online that it's basically confirmed. Oh my God. Fine, whatever. Sure. Believe it. I hope you're right. Like, the last thing in the world I want to be right is that Charlie Cox isn't in Spider-Man 3. Like, I want to be wrong that it's not confirmed. You know what I mean? But as of right now, Marvel hasn't said anything. He hasn't said anything. So yeah, I'm gonna still consider that a rumor. But okay, so that wraps up the WandaVision talk. So we're gonna take another quick break, and I'm gonna get into some community content. Welcome back to Nerdtooine and a Movie Podcast. Now we get to the final part of the name of the podcast in community talk with some new, not so much updates, but recent quotes by the one and only Joel McHale about the possibility of the Community movie. I recently said a few weeks ago, well, I don't know, maybe. He told this to The Wrap. I will say I really thought there was never a chance we would ever make a movie, ever. But I'd like to announce here on this interview we have been given $250 million to no. But I would say after the table read way back when, I think that brought a renewed interest, and I really think that there's no way we would do a movie, and there's a better chance than there was. That's not saying a lot, but I don't know. Believe me, I hope it does, and I think that would fulfill the harmonic, poetic justice of a show that was always on the verge of being canceled every 5 minutes. So I would say there is a better chance than there was. I wish I could go, oh yeah, there's a movie happening. We're starting in June. There's nothing like that. Believe me, I wish there was. And recently, Gillian Jacobs, who played Britta, stated that we need to direct all of our questions about the Community movie to Dan Harmon himself, of course, the creator of the show. And it's definitely hard to imagine that there won't be a Community movie. I think it's just a matter of when, and that has a lot to tie in with Dan Harmon, and his writers being tasked to do like everything. I mean, Dan Harmon's got the Rick and Morty, and a lot of his writers were from Community, and now they're writing on Rick and Morty. And there have been a lot of writers for Community that have gone on to do a lot of things. Like, for instance, if I'm not mistaken, the writer of the new Ant-Man movie is going to be doing the writing for that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with everyone who works with Dan Harmon and Dan Harmon himself. So I think it's just a matter of time. Like I said, I have there's no way in hell that it doesn't get made, in my opinion. It's just a matter of when, who's in it, and where it will be. I still very much firmly believe it's going to be on Netflix. It's going to be a Netflix original. #6th season in a Netflix movie. So I don't know. I think that's definitely the way that it looks. I think we're just waiting on Dan to write it. And I say Dan like I know him, I wish. I feel like at some points like this year, I looked like a young Dan Harmon. I posted a side-by-side one time, and I don't think anyone saw it. I think I might have to repost it, but I definitely think I look a lot like him, especially when I was talking to Ken Jeong after one of the Darkest Timeline live podcasts. And I miss that too. Like, I know Ken and Joel will probably never hear this, but it honestly helped get me through the pandemic initially, like, because it was the people that I love the most on one of my favorite shows of all time and one of the best shows of all time in Community. And then even, obviously, Ken did the Hangover movies too, which are also some of my favorite things ever. But, it really did give people something to look forward to, because Ken being a doctor, he was able to really, break down the truth, because not everyone was getting the truth early on, during, still to this day, about this dangerous pandemic that a lot of people are just, not even concerned with still, even after hundreds of thousands of people dying. But, I digress. About a month ago, I think now, Joel said it would be coming back in a couple weeks, and we still don't have any, to my knowledge. I really hope one day that they come back. I mean, I know, there's not many shows that are filming, new episodes and stuff right now, but Ken's 3 or whatever, however many shows it is now, and Joel's show, are. So, I mean, I don't fault them. These guys have to, make money, and that podcast, I'm sure, wasn't making them much, if any. But I really hope one day for it to come back. I was lucky enough to get a VIP ticket to one of the live ones, and after the show, I was able to actually speak with Ken Jeong himself. It was really what I think really did it for me for the Darkest Timeline podcast is because you see these these actors in roles that you love and you admire them and everything, and then you this pandemic hit and they were doing these shows from their own home. Like it felt like I got a I was invited into their house for like to hear them just go back and forth, and it really felt nice. It gave me something to look forward to, to watch, on the YouTube after I'd already streamed it all through my podcast apps. Um, but yeah, when I got to talk to him, I mean, we spoke obviously about the pandemic and what he recommended, because he is a doctor. It would be ill advised to not listen to him on anything medical related, because he regardless what Joel may have said, he wasn't disbarred. He has a medical license, and his wife is still practicing. I mean, he knows the truth, medically and scientifically speaking. So I mean, it's definitely something I had to take that opportunity to talk to him about. But I asked him about what it's like to try to get into these characters, because he's a really nice, soft-spoken guy, and then you have him, he's Leslie Chow in The Hangover, this drug addict, like crazy person, and then the mentally unstable Chang. And I asked him, I was like, how do you do that? And he's just like, he just has another level. And he said, mine like Danny Pudi on, like, when he was on the Darkest Timeline podcast, you can see how different he is from Abed. Shows how much of an amazing, talented actor he really is. Classically trained and amazing. And you see, because he's nothing like Abed. And Abed is just done to such a beautiful extent that you would think that maybe he was like that, and he's not. So like, and he said, like, Danny Pudi, like, he just gets into scene, he just gets there, he just gets to that point, and he just does it. And I really loved talking to him, and I would hope one day that the Darkest Timeline podcast can come back, and I can get to talk to him again, or maybe one day talk to him, whatever. Not that I'm asking. Ken, DM me, I miss you. So that's gonna be it for the community talk. Now, what I want to do is I want to talk about a few things that I'm really passionate about right now, and it's about helping people who are like small businesses, and people are just trying to make it in the pandemic. And if you're a comic book head like me, you looking for ways to get comic books, there's a lot of different ways. You can go online, order from the big stores, you can go to your local comic book store. But one thing I've really enjoyed doing is getting in touch with the Instagram comic book community, and there are a couple people who have done wonders to help me grow my collection again. And I just want to send, a shout out to some of them real quick. First and foremost, one of my first supporters and one of my favorite and trusted, I'd say, sellers, and just, overall good people is Bravo Collections. It's Bravo __ collections. He's got an assortment of great comic books, and he's real. He's a real person. Like, he's awesome, and he he just is. Every time I order from him, he ends up throwing in 3-4 random things that are just amazing, and just he gets to know you. He knows what you like, and he'll let you know when he's got something coming up that you might be looking forward to. And then of course there's Capsule Comics. They helped me get my Wolverine Black, White, and Blood. Even a great Thor key that had the first appearance of Final Phoenix, Old Man Logan. I mean, everything was absolutely pleasant, and had it's just everything came beautifully, quick responses. I mean, these are trusted people. I'm telling you, you tell them that Nerdpool sent you, and I'm sure they'll hook you up. And then last but not least, Duffy Boys Comics, DUFFBOY. Scomics. This man right here, let me tell you, he's basically created a um, local comic book store that you can order, and you can pre-order comics um, in full runs. You know, whatever you need. He's like, when I tell you this guy is accommodating, like there was something that I was interested in. He took it out of his personal collection for me. That you don't get that. And I'll be honest, I've pre-ordered a whole bunch of comics, you know, through the big comic book stores, and you know, like Sanctum Sanctorum Comics, and man, there's at least four different comic book stores. Wanted to try something out, and see how it went, because I noticed that any of the books that I wanted, if I didn't get to my local comic book store, they were either sold out or already on their second print before I had even a chance to get to them. So I was like, let me try to pre-order some of these things, and you know, Duffy, he just made it so easy. And when I say like it was a truly pleasure to deal with him, like very communicative, very amazing. You need it, you tell him, he'll either find it or find a way to find it. And like I said, tell him Nerdpool sent you, and they'll treat you right for sure. And none of these people are paying me to say this. Again, I have not to this day taken a freaking penny. So if I recommend something, or you know, I say that I recommend this, or I want you to go do this, because I believe in it and I support it. It has nothing to do with making any money. I'm not making anything off of this shit. Like I do this because I love it, and I hope people love listening to it. And if I can help them have a good experience like I've had, man, like it'll all be worth it. So yeah, definitely go check those guys out. They're all available on Instagram. Pardon me while I take a sip of my Bang Key Lime Pie. 0 calories. Again, not a paid promotion. Just love the content. Well, the contents in this situation. Okay. Now, that being said, there's been a lot of hype recently over a lot of things, like the new Star Wars High Republic, and the Future State, DC, and you know what they're doing with the Phoenix over in Marvel. I even saw like Mech Wars or something like that recently. It's I don't know if it's necessarily all good context. Like I said, I'm not caught up on that. I'm reading back issues of old runs to try to get familiar with all the old content before I got to see how we got to where the new content is before I mean, there's certain runs that I'll read. Like I read some of the Batman 3 Jokers, you know, just because it's hyped up, and excuse me, pardon me, and I wanted to, you know, like enjoy that. But for the most part, like I wait till it comes out on the apps, like I said. But yeah, definitely local comic book stores and people like Duffy and Bravo and, you know, Capsule Comics, they are providing a service that you can't get on your own. And it's definitely good to support people who support me. And again, like I said, I'm not getting paid to say this. I mean, not that I wouldn't accept it, but as of right now, I'm just preaching people who I actually care and respect about. So that's my spiel on those guys. And you know, I also wanted to talk maybe a little bit about Cobra Kai, how amazing the third season was. I know it's been a while since it, you know, finished airing, but I never really talked about it on the show. I actually commented on, you know, a couple other people's podcasts about it, but I'm really excited to see how it goes. It was a little predictable towards the end, but it was cheesy in a good way, like the Karate Kids were. And, you know, I love the storytelling, how they've come full circle, you know, the trip for Daniel-san to Okinawa and Japan, and, you know, with all the you know, when he met all of his people that he met over there in Japan, and how it came full circle. And you got to see why Kreese was so crazy and who he really was and why he was the way he was. You know, that's a hard thing to, you know, do for the villain character to make you actually go, huh, wow, I really see why he is the way he is, and you actually not necessarily care about him, but you empathize with them a little bit. Um, and the Cobra Kai has done that very well. Their ability to flip flop the villains and the quote unquote bad guy so eloquently. First season you had um the clear hero was Johnny and the clear bad guy was Danny, and then you realize that's not really the case, and then season 2 it had turned that Danny was the good guys and the Cobra Kai's were starting to be the bad guys again, and then in season 3 with the full on Cobra Kai down the Kreese dungeon rabbit hole they went down, and Johnny and Daniel piecing up and realizing they have to train each other, train everyone together to fight Kreese's men, and like I feel like it's definitely leading to another great tournament, and that was one thing that was so well done with the first season, was that it had that final episode with the tournament was just so epic. It felt like the final act of the Karate Kid for me, and it was amazing. And I can't wait to feel that again with season 4. And I have a theory about Aisha. The way they're doing this, I feel like, so Aisha was taken out after the brawl, and her parents put her into a private school. Now, because the karate gave her such confidence, I don't think they would necessarily stop it. They would just find someone else to train her and to be in a safe atmosphere in a private school. I bet you she shows up at the All Valley, and I bet you her coach is Hilary Swank's character from the next Karate Kid. I'm calling it now, and I feel like she's gonna be wearing like something that was Miyagi oriented, and Daniel's gonna freak, and she's gonna know him, but I don't know if he would know her. So I think that would be really interesting dynamic to have a warring Miyagi-Do type sensei with Danny, and then you've got the with Daniel's son, sorry, and then you got the Cobra Kai versus Cobra Kai. Like I think that'd be pretty interesting. But the only thing that would suck about that is no matter what, the final 4 would be one from each of their dojos. So I mean, unless you're gonna have someone get knocked out early, or I don't know, but I'm really excited because you just can't beat the tournament. I actually watched it again today because it was just so good. But it really is a just such great storytelling and acting all around. I've been really impressed so far. And also, last thing, right before we go, breaking news. This is still a rumor, but according to some reports right now online, Lars Mikkelsen, the guy who did the voice for Admiral Thrawn, is signing on to be the live-action Thrawn in the Ahsoka series. So, I mean, I initially thought that it might be Robert Downey Jr. based off of the reports that him and Favreau are talking about it. So I really think that it would be really good to have him do it because he's the one who was the voice actor. And he's definitely he does regular live acting as well. And I mean, this is a report from the Small Screen UK that he is definitely going to be the Grand Admiral Thrawn in Disney Plus's Ahsoka series that Dave Filoni is writing and directing, with Rosario Dawson as the amazing Ahsoka Tano. And I have to brag a little bit. I actually talked to Rosario Dawson through Instagram. I did a post about how excited I was about the confirmation of her show, and she like just basically blew me away, and actually responded and said thank you, and I wished her I said may the force be with you, and she said to you as well. So Ahsoka herself has wished me goodwill in the force. I can't see how that's a bad thing. But again, thank you all for showing up this week. More content coming very soon.